You know what's funny about horror games? Everyone says, I would have survived that, or I would have just done this. Well, I've analyzed horror game monsters and found 8 that you absolutely would not survive, no matter how built different you think you are. And the most dangerous one makes survival completely impossible. Look, I already know you're thinking, not me, I'm different. Don't be that guy. Hit like and subscribe, then comment your survival plan. Everyone did that on my last video too. Trust me, I played a ton of horror games recently and I'm about to show you why these monsters are built different. So first up, we have Lady de Mr. Choo. You know her. I don't know how to say her name, so I'm just gonna call her Big Lady. You know, she's the tall vampire video that took over the internet faster than cat videos did back in 2006. Look at her, all fancy with her big hat, fancy dress, like she's heading to some sort of royal tea party instead of, you know, murdering everyone that walks into her castle. Let's get one thing straight. This lady is 9.5 feet tall. That's like a basketball player standing on another basketball player's shoulders, AKA my ideal woman. Remember in school when there was always that one kid who hit their growth spurt first and towered over everyone? Yeah, well, Lady D makes that kid look like a garden gnome. But I could just run away from her. Oh, really? Have you seen those heels she's wearing? She shouldn't be able to run at all, but somehow she's chasing you down hallways like she's wearing track shoes. And don't even think about hiding. Her castle isn't that big when you're basically the size of a toddler compared to her. Now, let's talk about those fingers. Not the normal kind that me and you have. Nope. When Lady D gets mad, which is pretty much anytime she sees you, those fancy manicured nails turn into giant metal claws. Like imagine if Wolverine was a runway model. One swipe and you're not just dead, you're in multiple pieces. Or if you're Ethan from Resident Evil, your arm comes off. Well, I would just shoot her. Go ahead. Try it. She literally laughs at bullets. You could empty an entire gun into her and she'd just be annoyed that you ruined her dress. That's because she's infected with something called the Cadeau parasite, which basically gives her super healing power. Your little pea shooter isn't going to do anything except make her more interested in using your blood as her afternoon refreshment. Because yes, she makes wine out of blood, because why not? Speaking of blood, she's basically a vampire. She doesn't just kill you, she drinks you. There's a whole dungeon in her castle where she hangs people upside down to drain them like human juice boxes. And you think you'd somehow be different? Like she'd take one look at you and go, oh, this one seems nice, I'll let him go. Nah. You'd be on tap faster than you can say, please don't eat me. But vampires have weaknesses. Yes, classic vampires are afraid of sunlight and garlic. Lady D, her only real weakness is extreme cold, which isn't super helpful unless you happen to be carrying around a portable freezer. Oh, and there's a special ancient dagger that can kill her, the Dagger of Death's Flowers. And let me guess, you just happen to have one of those lying around, right? No, I didn't think so. You somehow managed to actually hurt her, you're in for a real treat. This elegant, sophisticated lady transformed into a massive dragon-like monster. We're talking huge wings, even bigger claws, and a face not even a mother could love. But I could. Imagine making it all the way through her castle, thinking you're about to escape, and then this happens. You think your built different muscles are gonna help you against that? The only thing built different about you would be how they need to rebuild the castle walls after she throws you through them. Funniest part is that in the game, it takes Ethan Winters, a guy who can literally reattach his own severed limbs with magic healing juice, to barely survive her. And you, with your Monster Energy drink and that one time you went to the gym last month, think you'd do better? Please. Even if you somehow survived her, you'd still have to deal with her 3 creepy daughters who can turn into swarms of bugs. But we don't even need to go there because let's be real. Lady D would have you mounted on her wall before you could say, step on me, tall lady. Speaking of getting crushed though, how about we check out a guy who could squish you without even touching you? Heisenberg might look like a steampunk hipster with anger issues, but his magnetic personality will literally tear you apart from the inside out. So you might think you have a chance against Lady D because you're small and fast. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because Heisenberg doesn't even need to catch you to kill you. This dude looks like he walked out of a rock concert with his leather jacket and sunglasses. But don't let that fool you. He's basically Magneto with anger issues. You know, those little magnets on your fridge? Imagine that, but strong enough to yank a car across a room. That's Heisenberg's power. He controls metal, all metal. So what? I'll just not carry anything metal. Oh, that's cute. Let's see. Got fillings in your teeth, metal zippers on your clothes, belt buckle, watch, cell phone. Maybe you have a really high iron diet. Congratulations, you're now a walking collection of deadly weapons against yourself. And you're fighting him in his factory, a place literally made of metal. It's like fighting a fish while you're drowning in the ocean. The walls, the pipes, the tools, everything around you becomes a potential missile aimed straight at your face. And trust me, getting hit with a flying wrench at 100 miles per hour isn't just gonna leave a bruise. Fine, I just bring plastic or wooden weapons. Great thinking, Einstein. Now you're bringing a plastic spork to a metal hurricane. While you're poking at him with your non-metal stick, he's got an entire army of creepy robot zombie things called soldats. These aren't your garden variety zombies either. They're part machine, part corpse, and all nightmare. Some of you tough guys are probably thinking, I'd reason with him. He doesn't like Miranda either. We could team up. Yeah, Heisenberg did try to team up with Ethan in the game to use Ethan's baby daughter as a weapon. What a great guy. His idea of friendship is let me experiment on your child. But sure, I bet he'd make an exception for you because you're so special. The worst part is this dude is smart, like evil genius smart. He built an entire factory of death machines. While you're still trying to figure out why your car is making that weird noise, he's building cyborg monsters out of corpses. He's not just strong, he's playing chess while you're eating the checkers. And if you somehow manage to make him angry enough, that's when things get really bad. Heisenberg's final form is basically what would happen if a junkyard and a slaughterhouse had a baby and they didn't love it. He fuses himself with his machine to become a massive whirling death tornado with saw blades for arms. Now that's metal as fuck. Oh, I bet I could outrun him. Sure, Usain Bolt. The guy who can control anything metal around him, including the very ground you're standing on, definitely won't catch you. And even if you did somehow escape his factory, you're still stuck in a village filled with werewolves and other monsters under Mother Miranda's control. The only reason Ethan Winters beats this guy is because of Chris Redfield. You know, the boulder punching superhuman, who gives him a special tank made from non-magnetic materials. Do you have a super soldier friend with access to experimental weapons? No? Then you'd be a human shish kebab before you could say I'm allergic to tetanus. So unless you're secretly made of plastic and have a tank in your back pocket, maybe don't go bragging about how you'd handle Magneto's angry cousin. But hey, at least Heisenberg only controls metal. Our next nightmare doesn't even make anatomical sense. Imagine fighting something that's basically 100 dead bodies having the world's worst group hug. Let me introduce you to the One Reborn, or should I say the Many Reborn, because this thing is basically a pile of corpses having the world's most disturbing group hug. That's not just a bloodborne monster, that's a traffic accident made of people. It's like someone took 100 dead bodies, threw them in a blender, hit puree, and then whatever disgusting soup came out decided to stand up and start walking around. Gross. The worst part isn't even looking at it. It's the sound. Imagine the nastiest, wettest, squishiest noises you've ever heard, all coming from a mountain of melted humans that's somehow alive. If you've ever stepped on a slug barefoot, multiply that feeling by about 1,000. But I have a strong stomach. I watch surgery videos for fun. Sure you do, tough guy. But there's a big difference between watching something nasty on your phone and actually smelling it in person. This thing reeks of decay, blood, and whatever comes after decay when things get really bad. Your brave talk would turn into vomit real quick. And speaking of vomit, that's one of its favorite attacks. This charming pile of death loves to puke up this toxic goo all over the arena. So not only are you fighting a walking corpse mountain, you're also playing the floor is acid at the same time. Well, I would just aim for its weak spot. Oh, you naive, sweet summer child. What exactly do you think the weak spot is on a creature made of hundreds of random body parts? It's all weak spots, and it's all strong spots. Its entire existence makes no sense at all. The real kicker is that this thing doesn't even fight fair. While you're busy trying not to throw up or slip in corpse vomit, there are these lovely ladies called Bell Maidens hanging out on the balconies. And what do? They throw magic death balls at you, because apparently fighting Corpse Mountain wasn't hard enough. Well, I would just take out all the Bell Maidens first. Great plan, except you have to run past the One Reborn to reach the stairs. Good luck with that. It's like saying I'd beat a lion by first putting my head in its mouth to check for cavities. The thing about the One Reborn is that it doesn't just attack you, it attacks everywhere. Its limbs are constantly flailing around like it's having the world's worst seizure. There's no pattern, there's no strategy, it's just chaos, pure disgusting chaos. And did I mention the limbs rain down from the sky? Yeah, it makes weird stuff fall from the ceiling. Imagine walking down the street and suddenly it's raining feet and arms. That's your life now. Congratulations. I'm fast though. I would dodge everything. Sure, Neo from the Matrix, but even if you somehow avoid getting hit by its dozen limbs and vomit pools, the falling body parts, and the Bell Maiden's attacks, you're still in a locked arena with it. You can't run, but eventually you'll get tired. It won't. It's already dead. It doesn't need to rest. The only reason anyone beats this thing in Bloodborne is because they can respawn after dying. In real life, you get one try. One, and let's be honest, you'd waste it standing there with your mouth open going, what the actual hell is that thing? Or getting smushed by a flying torso. But hey, at least the One Reborn isn't just a physical monster. Our next horror doesn't just attack your body, goes straight for your mind, and doesn't even give you a weapon to fight back. Alright, time for a different kind of nightmare. The Mutant Baby from Resident Evil Village isn't just gross, it's the kind of thing that makes therapists rich. Picture this, you're in a dark, flooded basement. Your weapons, gone. Your flashlight, barely working. And then you hear it, this weird crying sound. You turn around and that is what is coming for you. A giant, deformed baby monster with a mouth that could swallow your head whole. And it's crying, duh, duh, duh. Well, it chases you. Sleep tight tonight. It's just a hallucination though. It's not real. Keep telling yourself that while this enormous flesh potato with limbs is dragging itself through dirty water towards you. Real or not, your brain thinks it's real, and that's all that matters. The thing about the Mutant Baby that makes it so terrifying isn't just how it looks. It's that you're completely helpless. No guns, no knives, not even a stick to poke it with. Just you, your probably pants, and the world's ugliest infant playing the world's worst game of peekaboo. Well, I've seen worse on Reddit. Sure you have, tough guy. Seeing something on your phone while you're sitting on the toilet is completely different from hearing the wet slap of baby flesh dragging across the floor, getting closer and closer in real life. Let's be honest about something. Even the most hardened horror fans would be breaking down in tears. You know those videos where people get scared at haunted houses and start punching the actors? That would be you, except your punches would do nothing except make the baby angry. And no one wants to see an angry giant mutant baby. The worst part is how it moves. It doesn't crawl like a normal baby. It drags itself. The sound alone would break you. Those wet, swishy noises getting closer while you're backed into a corner. And then there's the crying. Not cute baby crying, distorted, wrong baby crying that sounds like it's coming from inside your own head. I would just run away. To where, exactly? You're in a flooded basement with narrow hallways and limited places to hide. The baby might be slow, but it's relentless. And unlike a regular baby that gets distracted by shiny objects, this one only cares about catching you. Some of you exercise freaks are probably thinking, I could outrun a baby. First of all, weird flex. Second, this isn't a normal baby, as I've said 50 times already. It's a massive blob of nightmare fuel that doesn't get tired. You, on the other hand, will eventually get exhausted from running in circles in ankle-deep water. And here's something you might not have considered. What does it do when it catches you? In the game, it eats you. That's right, this oversized infant uses you as a midnight snack. Imagine that, being eaten alive by a baby. That's not just dying, that's dying in the most embarrassing way possible. But it's just part of the game, right? Like, I wouldn't be scared in real life. Really? You've never been startled by your own shadow? You've never jumped when a cat knocked something over? You've never been like scared of a weird noise in your house at 3 a.m.? Yeah, okay. Now imagine that instead of your shadow, it's a giant deformed baby making wet slapping noises as it chases you through the dark. Your fight or flight response would be screaming, flight, 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 flight! Or your legs turn to jelly. Unless you're somehow immune to fear itself, have night vision, and can hold your breath underwater forever, this overgrown infant would have you crying for your own mommy in about 5 seconds flat. But hey, at least the baby stays in one location. Because our next monster is going to have you imagine fighting something with more arms than an octopus, with each one holding a blade sharp enough to slice you in half with a whisper. So you've escaped an evil baby. Good job, gold star for you. Now let's see how you handle something a little more elegant. Meet Margot's wet nurse from Bloodborne, the world's deadliest babysitter. Don't let the nurse part fool you. This isn't some lady in a white outfit with a thermometer. This is a floating shadow demon with more arms than a Hindu goddess and more knives than your local cutlery barn. Well, I would just keep my distance. That's your brilliant plan for everything, is it? Just be a big ass wimp. Well, surprise, the wet nurse can teleport. That's right. 1 second she's across the room, the next second she's right behind you. And those blades she carries, they're not kitchen knives, buddy. They're massive curved swords that could cut you in half easier than scissors through paper. And she has 6 arms, each with its own blade. That's like fighting 3 people at once, except it's actually just one really angry ghost mom. Some of you gamers are probably thinking, I have great reflexes from playing Fortnite. Cool story. Let's see those reflexes when you have 6 different blades coming at you from 6 different directions at the same time. That's not a fair fight. That's a human food processor with you as the main ingredient. But but I just focus on the real one. Oh, you naive child. The wet nurse doesn't play fair. When she's getting tired of your nonsense, she creates shadow clones of herself, multiple wet nurses, all attacking you at once, and you can't tell which one is real. It's like playing the shell game, except all the shells have knives and want you dead. Your odds of guessing right are about the same as your odds of winning the lottery while being struck by lightning. And just when you think it can't get worse, she pulls out her best trick, the nightmare phase. The entire arena goes dark, like pitch black dark. Now you're fighting multiple shadow monsters with knives in complete darkness. Still feeling confident, tough guy? Well, I would just use a flashlight. First, where are you getting this flashlight? Second, it wouldn't help. This isn't regular darkness. It's magical nightmare darkness. The kind where shadows eat light. Your little Energizer buddy flashlight isn't gonna save you here. What makes the wet nurse extra terrifying is how she moves. She doesn't walk, she floats silently. There's no heavy breathing, no stomping footsteps to warn you she's coming. Just this eerie, silent floating death approaching you from all directions. And let's talk about that lawnmower attack. That's what players call it when she goes absolutely bonkers and just starts spinning all of her blades at once. Imagine standing in front of 6 ceiling fans with knives attached to them. That's basically what you're dealing with. Well, I could dodge between the blades. Sure you could, Gymnastics McGee. I'm sure your perfect timing and flexibility would save you from the shadow monster with 6 arms moving at supernatural speeds. You can barely dodge a text from your ex, but sure, you'll matrix your way through a tornado of blades. And the people who beat the wet nurse in Bloodborne, they died a lot, like dozens of times, and they got to respawn. You get one shot, and I'm betting it ends with you doing an impression of shredded cheese. But hey, at least the wet nurse just wants to kill your body. Our next nightmare is after something deeper. Your guilt, your sanity, and everything that makes you, you. Hope you don't have any skeletons in your closet, because Pyramid Head is about to drag them all out. Okay, so far we've talked about monsters that want to stab you and eat you. But Pyramid Head, he's not just after your body, he's after your soul. This is a giant spoiler alert and like content warning, because if you've ever played Silent Hill 2, you know this guy, and this game is sad. Big triangle for a head, drags a sword the size of a surfboard, and wears a bloody apron like he just got off his shift at the world's worst butcher shop. But what makes Pyramid Head different from every other monster we've talked about is that he's not just some random creature, he's your creature. See, in Silent Hill 2, Pyramid Head is a physical manifestation of the main character's guilt. He's literally born from all the bad stuff James did and can't forgive himself for. He's shame and punishment with legs. So I'd be fine since I don't feel guilty about anything. Oh really? You've never done anything you regret? You've never told a lie that hurt someone? You've never broken a promise? Never had a bad thought you'd die if people knew about? Yeah, it must be nice being perfect. This makes me think of people that are always like, oh, I don't regret anything. You really don't regret anything? You're just admitting to being a sociopath. There is no way in hell you have a normal brain if you don't regret anything in life. We've all made mistakes. Own up to it, at least. For the rest of us humans, we all have something that we're not proud of. Even if you think you're clear of guilt, Silent Hill has a way of digging up stuff you've buried so deep you don't even remember it. The time you cheated on your test in 3rd grade, that mean comment you made 10 years ago, Silent Hill remembers, and it'll send Pyramid Head to remind you. Well, I would just fight him head on. With what? Your winning personality? This guy takes bullets like they're spitballs. In the game, you can empty an entire clip into him and he'll just keep coming. Not because he's invincible, but because you can't kill your own guilt by shooting it. The sound he makes is the worst part. That horrible scraping noise as he drags his massive blade across the floor. Like fingernails on a chalkboard, but deeper. Louder, and it means death is coming. You'd hear that sound and your bladder would automatically empty. Well, I would just run away. So where exactly? This isn't a normal monster chase. Pyramid Head isn't just following your footprints. He's following your guilt. He knows where you're going before you do because he's inside your head. Every door you think leads to safety, surprise, he's already there waiting. And if you think you've seen some disturbing stuff so far, Pyramid Head takes it to another level. This guy doesn't just kill his victims. He does other things to them. Things that would make an R-rated movie go straight to banned in all countries. I'm not even going to describe it here because let's just say there's a reason he's considered one of the most disturbing villains in gaming history, and this game covers really disturbing topics. Anyways, so just take it as a warning from me. He a bad guy. I just hide and wait for him to go away. Well, that's not how this works. Pyramid Head isn't some mindless zombie following a scent. He's a piece of you. Hiding from him is like trying to hide from your own shadow. As long as there's light, your shadow is there. As long as there's guilt, Pyramid Head is there. In Silent Hill 2, the only way to truly defeat Pyramid Head is to face your guilt and accept it, to acknowledge what you've done and take responsibility. But let's be honest, most of us can barely admit when we're wrong in an argument, let alone face our deepest, darkest secrets. The scariest part about Pyramid Head isn't his look or his weapon, it's that he represents something real. All the other monsters we've talked about are external threats. Pyramid Head, he's what happens when your own mind turns against you. He's the part of you that thinks you deserve punishment. So unless you're some kind of enlightened monk with zero regrets and perfect self-awareness, Pyramid Head would break you mentally, long before he'd need to break you physically. Speaking of breaking, let's talk about a monster that would literally turn you into pieces before you could even process what's happening. The Orphan of Chaos doesn't just kill you, it does it so fast you won't even have time to realize you've been sliced into human confetti. If psychological horror isn't your thing, how about we talk about something that'll just straight up turn you into sashimi? Meet the Orphan of Chaos from Bloodborne, the angriest baby in video game history. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another baby monster? Didn't we already do that? No. This isn't like the Mutant Baby. This is what happens when a godlike creature gives birth, dies, and then the baby decides to take out all of its abandonment issues on you. The Orphan is basically what you would get if you combined an Olympic sprinter, a blender, and a tantrum-throwing toddler. This thing moves so fast that even gamers with lightning reflexes struggle to keep up. 1 second it's across the arena, the next it's right in your face screaming. And that scream? Imagine the worst noise you've ever heard. Nails on a chalkboard, forks scraping a plate, your mom calling you by your full name when you're in trouble, and multiply it by 1,000. But I have quick reflexes from playing sports. Sure you do, champ. But unless your local basketball league involves dodging attacks from all directions at superhuman speeds, those reflexes aren't going to help much. The Orphan doesn't just attack fast, it attacks weird. There's barely any pattern to learn, no tells you can easily watch for. It's pure chaos in skinny baby form. The weapon it uses? Yeah, it's its own placenta. That's right, this thing beats you to death with its afterbirth, which somehow transformed into a fleshy club blade thingy. That's not disturbing enough for you, just wait until it starts throwing lightning and explosive blood at you from a distance. I just keep my distance and use ranged attacks. Great plan, except the Orphan can leap across the entire arena in a split second. Plus, it has its own ranged attacks that can hit you from anywhere. Your brilliant stay far away strategy that didn't work out for the last 100 monsters is definitely gonna fail you here too. And here's the real kicker. Just when you think you're getting the hang of its moves, when you've managed to get its health down to halfway, it goes Super Saiyan on you. Phase 2 of the Orphan fight is when it gets really mad, growing wings and getting even faster and more aggressive. Well, I would just study its attack patterns. Study what exactly? The Orphan's attacks are deliberately designed to be almost unpredictable. It's like trying to predict where lightning will strike during a thunderstorm while also being chased by a tornado. In the game, the players who finally beat the Orphan usually die dozens, if not hundreds of times learning its moves. You get one shot. One. And I guarantee you'd spend that shot frozen in terror as this screaming placenta-wielding nightmare sprints towards you. What makes the Orphan extra disturbing is its backstory. This thing is literally born from its dead mother seconds before you encounter it. Its first experience in life is someone, who's you, approaching it with weapons. No wonder it's upset. It's a newborn that never had a chance. Think about that for a second. You're not just fighting some random monster. You're fighting a terrified, angry, orphaned infant god. An infant god that can move faster than you can blink and hit harder than a truck. The saddest part in Bloodborne's story, killing the Orphan actually puts its spirit to rest and ends a curse. But you wouldn't know that. All you know is there's a screaming nightmare baby turning you into human confetti before you can even say pacifier. Even the most hardcore Bloodborne players rank the Orphan as one of the hardest bosses ever created. People who beat Dark Souls without getting hit still struggle with this fight. But sure, you with your fast reflexes from playing Candy Crush would totally handle it. If the Orphan sounds bad, just wait until you meet the mastermind behind all the horrors in Resident Evil Village. Mother Miranda doesn't just have one terrible power, she's got the whole package, wrapped up with a bow of pure scientific evil. We've saved the worst for last. Mother Miranda isn't just another monster. She's the queen bee of monsters, the big boss, the final level, the reason all the other nightmares in Resident Evil Village exist in the first place. While Lady D and Heisenberg might get all the fan art, Miranda is the one pulling everyone's strings from the shadows. Think of her as your friend's mom who seems nice at first but is actually running a cult out of her basement. She doesn't look that scary. Well, that's because you haven't seen what's under the mask, but more importantly, her scariness isn't just about looks. looks, it's about what she can do. For starters, she's basically immortal. Miranda found this thing called the megamocyte fungus about 100 years ago, which turned her into a superpowered being who doesn't age. That's right, she's been perfecting her evil plans for a century. While you were busy learning TikTok dances, she was mastering biology and creating monsters. Well, I would just avoid the village entirely. Good luck with that. The entire place is under her control. Werewolves, the creepy dolls, all the lords we've talked about, even the plants and animals. There's literally nowhere to hide that she doesn't know about. And here's the really terrifying part. She can perfectly shapeshift into anyone. In the game, she pretends to be Ethan's wife, Mia, for months without him noticing any difference. Think about that. Your own spouse replaced by a monster and you couldn't tell. That means your best friend, your mom, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, anyone could be Miranda and you never know until it was too late. Well, I'd be able to tell if someone I knew was an imposter. Really, you can't even tell when your partner's mad at you through text messages, but suddenly you're a human lie detector? Mother Miranda doesn't just look like the person. She has their memories, their mannerisms, everything. She's not wearing a mask. She's wearing their entire identity. Did I mention she's also a scientific genius? She literally taught Oswald Spencer, who is the guy who founded the Umbrella Corporation and started the whole Resident Evil zombie mess in the first place. She's been experimenting on people for longer than your grandparents have been alive. Well, then I would use science against her then. With what? Your C+ in high school biology? This woman has had a century to study the mold and its effects. She created the Cadu parasite that powered all the other lords. She's basically the evil Einstein of bioweapons. And when she gets tired of playing games, she can transform into a nightmare creature that's basically a combination of every horror you can imagine. Wings, claws, multiple arms, and the ability to control the mold directly. Well, I would find her weaknesses. After 100 years of studying herself, don't you think she's figured out and eliminated most of her weaknesses? The only reason Ethan eventually beats her is because he has special powers from his own mold infection and the help of Chris Redfield, a super soldier with advanced weapons. Some of you are probably thinking, I'd just reason with her. She lost her daughter. I'd appeal to her human side. That might work if she was still human. But after a century of experimenting on villagers and creating monsters, that ship has sailed. She's so obsessed with bringing back her daughter, Eva, that she's willing to sacrifice a baby, Rose, and countless others. You think your little speech about feelings is going to change her mind? The truth is, against Mother Miranda, you wouldn't even know you were in danger until it was too late. That friendly villager giving you directions? Miranda. That dog following you around? Probably Miranda. That rock? Okay, maybe she's not the rock, but you get my point. She's lived for over 100 years, controls an army of monsters, can perfectly disguise herself as anyone, has genius level intelligence, and can transform into a killing machine if all else fails. You wouldn't stand a chance. You'd just be another failed experiment in her century-long science project. So, there's a bunch of horror monsters you definitely would not survive from different horror video games. Do you think you could survive a horror game? Those smug comments I see y'all leaving on my videos to just run away won't help when you're face to face with these nightmare monsters designed specifically to counter every human survival instinct we've evolved over thousands of years. If you want to live through this video at least, hit the like button and subscribe to appease the algorithm gods. They're the only monsters you can negotiate with, unlike the horrors we're about to dissect. Let's start with the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4. These bad boys are probably what Satan makes in his spare time when hell gets boring. The first time I saw one, I nearly threw my controller through the TV. Just imagine you're walking down a dimly lit hallway in a creepy lab, and suddenly you hear this weird raspy breathing. That sound still gives me nightmares, by the way. Thanks, Capcom. So you see this pale, fleshy thing shuffling towards you. No big deal, right? Just looks like your dad when he's getting up at 2 a.m. to get a snack. And if you've been playing this game, you've killed like 100 zombies already. Just shoot it in the head. Except when you blow its head off, it just grows back. Yeah, you heard that right. Shoot off an arm, grows back. Leg, same thing. These things are basically walking middle fingers to everything you've learned about survival up to this point in the game. So for all those people who just comment, I just shoot in the head with a gun under every single one of my videos, yeah, those people would be super dead right now. Like immediately dead. What makes Regenerators truly terrifying isn't just that they can regrow limbs. It's that the solution to killing them isn't at all obvious. In the real world, if you encountered one of these things, you'd be completely screwed because you need a very specific tool, the thermal scope. Without this scope, you have no way of seeing the lost plagueis parasites inside their bodies that need to be destroyed. Think about that for a second. You empty magazine after magazine into this monster, watching in horror as it just keeps putting itself back together. You have absolutely no idea that you need to shoot tiny invisible parasites inside its body. How would you possibly figure that out while this thing is shambling towards you, making that horrible breathing noise? The psychological impact is almost worse than any physical threat. Most horror game enemies follow rules we understand. Aim for the the head, run away, hide, whatever. But Regenerators break all those rules. They create this overwhelming feeling of helplessness because nothing you try seems to work. They're a masterclass in making the player feel powerless. And just when you think you've figured them out, Resident Evil 4 throws in the Iron Maidens. These are basically Regenerators with an upgrade package from hell. They're covered in metal spikes that shoot out from their bodies when they get close to you. So now, not only can they regenerate, but they can also impale you if you get too close. Even if you know about the thermal scope, you're still in danger because you need to keep your distance while also precisely aiming at tiny targets. In the remake version, they made these things even worse. Now they move faster, more erratically, and when you shoot their legs off, they don't just fall down. They start crawling at you like some kind of demented spider. Honestly, who hurt the game designers here? What kind of childhood trauma made them think this is okay to make? Let's be real. You were actually in Resident Evil 4, you wouldn't have a thermal scope, you wouldn't know about the parasites, and your fight or flight response would just get you killed faster. You'd either waste all your ammo shooting at a monster that can't die that way, or you'd panic and run, probably right into its stretchy arms. And either way, you're becoming a Regenerator chew toy within about 30 seconds. But if you think watching a gray blob regrow its limbs is the peak of horror, just wait until you're swimming in the deep blue sea and hear a roar that makes your spine turn to jelly. The Reaper Leviathan from Subnotica is why I've developed a perfectly rational fear of swimming pools. Not even kidding. Look at that beautiful, peaceful alien ocean. Gorgeous, right? That's how they trick you. Go explore, they said. Build a little submarine, they said. Nobody mentioned the 55-meter sea monster that would haunt my dreams forever. Subnotica is evil genius because it taps into something many of us already fear. Deep water where we can't see what's below us. Thalassophobia, if you will, if you want to sound smart at parties. There's just something primarily terrifying about being in vast, open water where you're completely vulnerable from almost every direction. And then there's that roar. If you've played the game, you just felt your stomach drop. That roar is probably the most effective audio cue in any horror game in recent history. What makes the Reaper truly terrifying is that brief moment of false security you get. I'm in my Seamoth submarine. I'm safe. Nope. That thing will grab your little submersible like it's a Hot Wheel and shake you around until it breaks. You know what's worse than being eaten? Watching your oxygen meter tick down because your only ride back to the surface is now confetti. The best part is how the game developers strategically place these monsters. Need to visit the crashed spaceship for critical story progression? Great, they surrounded it with Reapers. Need resources from the dunes? Reapers. Mountain biomes? More Reapers. They basically put the scary fish exactly where you need to go. And unlike most game monsters, there's no easy strategy. You can't just get good at fighting them. Your only options are stealth, good luck in open water, running away, they're faster, or getting the stasis rifle, which you won't have for a good chunk of the game. Most players don't even realize these monsters can be killed because it seems so impossible. Remember when I talked about the thermal scope with Regenerators? Well, Subnautica does something similar, but worse. All the tools that might help you survive, the Seamoth defense system, the stasis rifle, the prawn suit drill arm, are technologies you have to discover, craft, and upgrade. An average person suddenly dropped into this alien ocean would have none of these things. You'd just be a squishy human in a wetsuit, doggy paddling for your life, while this nightmare with 4 mandibles charges at you from the darkness below. The pure panic of being underwater, where you can't scream, can't run, can't even breathe, combined with a monster that announces its presence with a roar that means, I already know where you are. That's why Reaper Leviathans are a perfect 0 chance of survival enemy. I mean, I still get sweaty palms every time I hear that roar, and I'm just holding a controller on my couch. Imagine actually being there, feeling your heart pounding, air running low, and then seeing that silhouette emerge from the murk. As terrifying as being hunted in the endless ocean is, though, at least you can see the Reaper coming when it's right there. What about a monster that can hear your every move while you're completely blind to its presence? Enter the lickers from Resident Evil 2. I swear these things were designed by someone who really hates gamers. If you've never had the pleasure of meeting a licker, imagine if someone skinned a human, turned them inside out, removed their eyes, gave them a brain that sits outside their skull, and then thought, you know what would make this better? A tongue that can impale people from across the room. What makes lickers true nightmare fuel isn't just their gross appearance, it's that they're completely blind. Oh great, you might think, a blind monster should be easy to sneak past. That's exactly the trap that gets most people killed, because because what they lack in vision, they make up for with super hearing. These things can hear a pin drop from a mile away. Literally every natural instinct you have in a scary situation, running, screaming, panic firing your gun, is exactly what will get you murdered by these tongue-waggling nightmares. In fact, in the remake, you can actually walk right past them if you move slowly enough. But let's be honest, when you see a skinless monster hanging from the ceiling, your first thought isn't, I should tiptoe past this thing. Your first thought is, ah! Followed by running or shooting, both of which might as well be ringing the dinner bell. I love how some of you guys in the comments claim you'd be so calm in all these situations. Sure, buddy, you who screams when a cockroach runs across the floor would totally keep your cool when facing a 6-foot skinless abomination. Totally believe you there. But wait, it gets worse. Lickers don't just hang out on the floor like normal, polite monsters. They climb on walls and ceilings too. This means they can literally be anywhere in the room. That moment when you enter a hallway in Resident Evil 2 and the camera pans up to show a licker crawling above you, that's pure evil game design right there. Their ambush potential makes them especially deadly. You might enter a room that seems empty, not realizing there's a licker on the ceiling, make a noise, and suddenly wham. What really gets me about lickers is the evolutionary horror they represent. They're not some random monster. They're what happens when a zombie undergoes a secondary mutation. It's like the game is saying, you thought regular zombies were bad? Here's what happens when they evolve. The fact that they're blind also creates this terrible choice when you encounter them. Do you try to sneak by and risk them hearing you anyway? Or do you waste precious ammo trying to kill them? And regular bullets barely hurt them. You need shotguns or magnum rounds to take them down effectively. Definitely not something an average person would have handy. Even the game's own protagonists, trained police officers like Leon and Claire, struggle with these things. Which chance would you have? To survive a licker, you need to know they're blind before you encounter them, which you wouldn't. You also need to know to move slowly, which goes against every single survival instinct we have, and you need heavy weaponry, which you probably wouldn't have either. Oh, and there's usually more than one of them at a time. Good luck with that. If the thought of being haunted by sound alone has you sweating, just wait until you meet a monster whose greatest weakness is tied to the very trauma that created her. And you'd never figure that out until it's too late. Laura from The Evil Within might be the most nightmare-inducing monster I've ever seen in a game. When I first encountered her, I literally had to pause the game and question my life choices. Like, who hurt the developers so badly that they created whatever this abomination is? Picture this. You're creeping through a dark hallway when suddenly this multi-armed Spider-Woman thing with long black hair covering her face comes crawling at you from the ceiling. She's covered in burns, has way too many limbs, and moves like someone put a spider on fast forward. Oh, and did I mention that she can appear out of nowhere by crawling out of pools of blood or dead bodies? Yeah, surprise, that corpse you just walked past, not as dead as you thought. Sweet dreams tonight. What makes Laura so terrifying isn't just her creepy appearance, how she breaks the rules of physics and reality. In The Evil Within, you're trapped in this twisted nightmare world called STEM, where the laws of nature don't apply. Laura takes full advantage of this by teleporting, crawling on walls and ceilings, and straight up materializing out of thin air when you least expect it. I know some of you guys are thinking right now, I just shoot her in the face. Well, good luck with that, buddy. Laura shrugs off bullets like they're spitballs. Shotgun blasts? Merely inconvenient. Even if you somehow manage to blow off her limbs, she just keeps coming. Here's the real kicker though. Laura does have a weakness, but it's one you'd never figure out unless you knew her backstory. Fire. She's terrified of fire because she died in a barn fire while saving her brother Rebuke, who later becomes the main villain. But how would you possibly know that? It's not like she's walking around with a sign saying, please don't use fire on me. I'm very vulnerable to that. Even if you somehow stumbled onto her weakness, exploiting it isn't simple. You need specific fire-based weapons like the Agony Crossbow's fireballs, or you need to lure her into environmental fire traps. In the real world, you wouldn't have either of those things handy. What, you keep flamethrowers into the back of your pocket? I don't think so. The psychological horror of Laura goes deeper than just her appearance. She represents the main villain's guilt and trauma over losing his sister. Every encounter with her feels personal and emotionally charged. You're not just fighting some random monster. You're facing someone's twisted memory of their loved one. Her attacks aren't just physically threatening. They're disturbing on an emotional level. If she catches you, it's an instant death. No health bar slowly draining, no chance to escape. She just impales you with her many arms in a death animation that still makes me cringe. And let's not forget her breathing and screaming. The audio design for Laura is absolutely terrifying. You'll hear her before you see her. This rasping, pained breathing that gets louder as she gets closer. It's the audio equivalent of someone slowly dragging their nails down a chalkboard while whispering your name. In the real world, Facing Laura would be a psychological nightmare as much as a physical one. Your brain would struggle to process what you're seeing, this impossible creature that defies human anatomy. You'd be frozen in fear before you could even think about fighting back, and even if you did, you wouldn't know about her fire weakness until it was way too late. The scariest part in the game's lore, Laura isn't even trying to be evil. She's just a manifestation of trauma and pain, lashing out in the only way she knows how. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones that want to eat you. They're the ones that are just as much victims as you are. Laura might burn easily once you know her weakness, but our next nightmare proves that sometimes the most dangerous creatures aren't the ones trying to kill you. They're the ones you'd kill by mistake. Let's talk about Virginia from Sons of the Forest. First time I saw her sneaking around in the forest, I nearly jumped out of my skin. She's got 3 arms, 3 legs, and comes at you wearing nothing but a bathing suit. Normal Tuesday, right? But here's the twist that would get most people killed. Virginia isn't actually trying to hurt you. She's probably the only mutant on the entire island who doesn't want to turn your skull into a fancy new cup. In fact, if you manage to befriend her, she becomes the most valuable ally you could ask for. The problem? Almost nobody would ever discover this because their first reaction would be to scream and start blasting. I mean, come on, be honest with yourself. If you're lost in a cannibal-infested forest and suddenly see a 3-armed, 3-legged woman sprinting through the trees, your first thought isn't gonna be, I bet she'd make a great friend. Your first thought is gonna be some combination of nope and whatever prayer you can remember from childhood. The number of players who immediately attack Virginia their first time playing is probably around 99%. I mean, I did it, you would too. Don't pretend you're morally superior, we're all bad people. What makes Virginia such a perfect zero chance of survival scenario is the tragic communication barrier. She can't speak at all. So even if you somehow resist the urge to attack this mutated woman, building trust with her is incredibly difficult. She's scared of you too and will run away if you move too quickly, chase her, or have weapons out. In the game, this means carefully leaving gifts for her, moving slowly, and basically having the patience of a saint. In real life, good luck with that. You'd be frantically trying to survive, probably sleep deprived, hungry, and traumatized from fighting off regular cannibals. The careful social dance required to befriend Virginia would be nearly impossible. The true irony is that Virginia is actually stupidly powerful as an ally. Thanks to those extra limbs, she can dual wield weapons with perfect accuracy and get this, infinite ammo. That's right, she never runs out of bullets. She's basically a walking cheat code. She'll also bring you food, alert you to danger, and lead you to resources. But you never discover any of this because you'd either kill her on sight or scare her off permanently. It's like winning the lottery and then immediately setting the ticket on fire because it looked weird. Her backstory makes this even more tragic. Virginia is the daughter of a billionaire family who was on the island when everything went to hell. She was mutated by some alien artifact, but unlike most victims, kept her human consciousness and intelligence. She's been surviving alone for months before you arrived. She's not a monster, she's a survivor, just like you. The game doesn't explain any of this up front though. You have to piece it together through environmental storytelling and patience. In a real survival situation, you'd never have the luxury of slowly figuring this out. Your instincts would get the better of you, and you'd lose out on the one ally who could actually help you escape alive. Virginia represents a different kind of zero-chance scenario, not because she's trying to kill you, but because you've never overcome your own fear and prejudice long enough to discover she's actually your best hope for survival. Sometimes our own instincts are what doom us, not the monsters themselves. Thus, you wouldn't escape the island and you would be dead. While Virginia might be the ally you need but never get, our next nightmare shows what happens when the institution meant to heal you becomes your prison, where even the ceiling isn't safe from horror's reach. The doctor from Little Nightmares 2 is what happens when someone takes a regular messed up doctor and thinks, you know what would make this worse? If he crawled on the ceiling like a giant spider. Thanks, I didn't need to sleep tonight anyways. First off, this guy is massive compared to you. In Little Nightmares 2, you play as Mono, tiny kid with a paper bag on his head. The doctor is like 10 times your size, all bloated and gross, with his stretchy skin that looks like melted plastic. And then there's the way he moves. That ceiling crawling thing, it goes against every natural law. Our brains are wired to expect certain kinds of movement from humanoid figures. When something human-shaped suddenly starts spider crawling upside down, it triggers a primal nope response in our lizard brains. That's why horror movies use that crawling effect so much, it just feels wrong on a deep level. What makes the doctor truly terrifying is his environment. You encounter him in a hospital, but not the kind where they give you lollipops after a checkup. This hospital is filled with disembodied mannequin hands that crawl around, patients made of porcelain, and body parts preserved in jars. It's basically what would happen if the health insurance industry designed hospitals themselves and actually secretly controlled everything. Oh wait, they already do. Shit, is this our future in 50 years? The setting plays a huge role in why you'd have a zero chance against the doctor. Hospitals are already disorienting places. All those similar looking corridors and rooms now add in the fact that this one is poorly lit, filled with traps and has a ceiling crawler hunting you down. You'd be lost and dead before you could say, I should have gotten a second opinion. Some of you are probably thinking, but I'd just run away. Yeah, good luck with that, Janice. The doctor is surprisingly fast, especially for something so bulky, and running is actually what gets most players killed. The game requires careful stealth and timing to survive his encounters. I still remember hiding under a bed while he searched the room, his nasty hands lifting up other beds looking for me. The tension was so bad I think I permanently damaged my controller from gripping it too hard. But here's the real kicker about why an average person would be absolutely toast against the doctor. The way to defeat him isn't obvious at all. You can't just shoot him or stab him. Instead, you have to lure him into a large incinerator and trap him inside. Let me repeat that. To defeat this monster, you need to 1. Know there's an incinerator nearby. 2. Figure out how to activate it. And 3. Somehow trick a seemingly intelligent creature into walking into an obvious trap, all while being the size of a hamster compared to him. How would an average person know to do any of that? You wouldn't. You'd be too busy experiencing the world's least comfortable game of hide and seek. Except when you lose, you don't just get tagged. You get added to the doctor's collection of medical oddities. The sad part is that the doctor might not even be inherently evil. Some fan theories suggest he was trying to find a cure for whatever twisted the world of little nightmares. But that doesn't really matter when he's reaching under your bed with hands the size of your entire body, does it now? I like to imagine myself being brave in horror situations, but let's be real. If I saw the doctor crawling on the ceiling, I'd probably just lie down and accept my fate. Well, this is how I go. At least I don't have to pay my taxes anymore. Even if you somehow survived an encounter, the psychological trauma of seeing something that large moving in that unnatural way would probably break your brain. You'd spend the rest of your life checking ceilings everywhere you went. Movie theaters, grocery stores, your own bedroom. Nothing would feel safe again. Doctor represents a terrifying idea of someone who was meant to heal but is actually evil. But if one monster is bad, what about facing hundreds of them at once in an all-you-can-eat buffet where you're the main course? The guests from Little Nightmares are what happens when somebody takes the concept of hungry and cranks it up to nightmare level. Picture this. You're a tiny child in a yellow raincoat, and an entire cruise ship of the most disgustingly obese people you've ever seen arrive for dinner. And guess what? You're on the menu. Unlike most of the monsters we've talked about, the guests aren't scary because they're super strong or have special powers. They're scary because there are just so many of them. It's like Black Friday at Walmart if everyone shopped on all fours, was as big as an elephant, and tried to eat the employees. These people, if you can even call them that, are so grotesquely huge that they can't even walk upright anymore. They crawl around on all fours, dragging their massive bodies across the floor, over tables, even climbing over each other to get to food. Their faces are weird and mask-like, with tiny eyes and gaping mouths that never seem to get full, no matter how much they stuff into them. What makes this sequence in Little Nightmares so terrifying is the scale. You're playing as 6, who's maybe 2 feet tall at most. These guests are enormous by comparison, and a single one could easily grab you and pop you into their mouth like a chicken nugget. Now multiply that by hundreds. I love how some of you are probably thinking, well, I'd just hide under a table. Yeah, brilliant strategy there, Einstein. The problem is that in the game's dining hall, there are literally guests everywhere. They're crawling under tables, over tables, knocking furniture aside. There's almost no safe space to hide for more than a few seconds. Hell, they might even eat the table, so that's really not that safe. And unlike other enemies where you can just run away, the guests create this suffocating environment where there's barely room to move. They flood into the dining hall like a tidal wave of flesh, turning the entire room into a danger zone. You can't fight them, you can't reason with them, and you certainly can't outrun them all. What's truly disturbing about the guests isn't just their appearance, it's what they represent. The entire world of Little Nightmares is about consumption and hunger. These people are so consumed by their appetite that they've lost any semblance of humanity. They don't talk, they don't think, they just eat. And when they see you, you're just another meal. There's a theory that the guests are actually part of a horrible cycle. They come to the Maw, which is the underwater resort where the game takes place. They feast until they can barely move, and then they're killed and turned into food for the next batch of guests. It's like a twisted all-you-can-eat buffet where eventually you become part of the buffet yourself. If you found yourself in that dining hall, you wouldn't last 5 minutes. You'd be too big to hide in the small spaces 6 uses, too slow to outrun the horde, and too weak to fight off even one of these monsters, let alone hundreds. Your only hope would to be somehow reach higher ground, but the sheer chaos and panic would make that nearly impossible. If fighting a mob of hungry monsters seems horrifying, wait until you face a nightmare puppet whose very existence breaks the rules of reality, and whose every appearance means certain death without knowledge no human could possess. Let's talk about Nightmaronette from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure you're still paying attention. If you screamed, congratulations. You'd already be dead in the actual game, but like and subscribe since I have your attention now. Nightmaronette might look like what would happen if Jack Skellington had a baby with a web browser's error page, but don't let the silly appearance fool you. This thing is probably the most unfair enemy on this entire list, because it doesn't just kill you, it breaks the very rules of what a game monster should be. Here's the thing about most horror game enemies. They follow some kind of logic. They have patterns, behaviors, weaknesses. Even the craziest monsters usually stick to rules like they exist in physical space, or they follow some kind of consistent physics. Nightmaronette? Nope, this thing changes its entire mechanic depending on which Five Nights game you're playing. In FNAF 4, it appears in doorways, on your bed, or in the closet, and you have to shine a light on it or close doors at exactly the right moment. In Ultimate Custom Night, it randomly appears on your screen overlay, and if your mouse cursor hovers over it for too long, boom, jump scare. In Help Wanted VR, its tentacles emerge from multiple places, and you have to target them with your flashlight. See the problem? There's no consistent way to deal with it. Imagine in real life, gravity just randomly decided to work differently every hour. That's Nightmaronette, a monster that rewrites its own rules of existence just to mess with you. But I would just run away. Cool story, bro. Run where exactly? In Five Nights at Freddy's games, you're typically stuck in one location, an office, bedroom, whatever. There is no way to run to. And that's assuming you could even move after seeing this thing. Nightmaronette's design is peak psychological horror. That impossibly thin body, those long spindly limbs, the permanent grinning face with empty eye sockets, the way it moves like a glitching video file rather than an actual creature. Looking at Nightmaronette feels like your brain is being forced to process something that shouldn't exist. The visual equivalent of trying to divide by zero. The worst part? Surviving Nightmaronette isn't about skill in the traditional sense. It's about memorizing arbitrary game-specific rules that no real person would really understand. In Ultimate Custom Night, for an example, how would you possibly know that the cursor hovering over its ghostly image is what triggers an attack? That's something that makes logical sense in any real-world context. And the timing required is insane. In Five Nights at Freddy's 4, you have less than a second to respond correctly to Nightmaronette peering in a doorway. Miss that window? Dead. In the VR version, those tentacles emerge from multiple directions at the same time, requiring inhuman awareness and reaction speed. If you encountered Nightmaronette in real life, you wouldn't just die. You died confused, with no idea of what rule you broke or what you possibly could have done differently. It would be like playing a game where nobody told you the controls, except the penalty for pressing the wrong button is death. In all my years of playing horror games, I've discovered 8 monsters so terrifying that no matter how smart, strong, or prepared you think you are, survival is completely impossible. And the most lethal one uses a psychological trick that would break your mind before it even touches you. If you think you could survive any of these nightmares, hit the like button to prove your bravery, but stick around because by the end of this video, you'll be hitting the subscribe button just to feel less alone in your newfound fear. Let's start with Choo Charles, possibly the weirdest nightmare fuel I've ever seen in a horror game. Picture this. You're wandering around a creepy island, minding your own business, when suddenly you hear a train whistle, but it's not coming from the tracks. That's because this train doesn't need tracks. It's got giant spider legs. Yeah, you heard me right. A blood red train with a face that looks like a demented Thomas the Tank Engine slapped onto a spider's body. Yeah, you think you could outrun a train? Good luck with that. Charles moves at speeds that would make Usain Bolt look like he's walking backwards. The worst part is that trains are supposed to stay on tracks, right? That's the one advantage we've always had over trains. Just don't stand on the rails. But Charles said nah to that whole concept. Those spider legs let him climb over pretty much anything. Hills, rocks, buildings, nowhere is safe. You can't hide up high, you can't hide down low. He's coming for you, and he's coming fast. But wait, I hear you typing furiously in the comments. I just shoot him with my Glock. Yeah, that's cute. Charles isn't just gonna fall over because you brought your dad's hunting rifle. This monster is basically a living tank. The only thing that even stands a chance against him is another train, specifically your own weaponized train equipped with machine guns. And guess what? Unless you happen to have a battle train parked in your garage, if you do, we need to talk about your hobbies. You're completely out of luck. The game literally gives you a train with a mounted gun, and Charles still nearly kills you every time. Your best strategy is running away in your train while desperately shooting backwards, praying you hit something vital before he rams into you at full speed. It's like trying to win a demolition derby while also playing a first-person shooter, except the other car is alive and really angry. We haven't even talked about how absolutely terrifying it is to be haunted by something that shouldn't exist. That face will haunt your nightmares. Those teeth, those eyes, it's like someone asked AI to combine children's cartoon with my worst fear and then made it real. And that whistle, when you hear it in the distance, your blood turns to ice. You know he's out there, you know he's looking for you, and unlike a regular train, you can't just step off the tracks to safety. The game's creator knew exactly what they were doing. They took two things that aren't scary on their own, trains and spiders, and combined them into something that hits a primal fear we didn't even know we had. Honestly, I'd rather face an actual spider the size of a train than Charles. At least the spider would make sense. But if you thought a spider train was the peak of nightmare fuel, you're in for a nasty surprise when we look at our next monster. She'll make you scared to even open your mouth. Moving on to Resident Evil 7's Margaret Baker, who takes the concept of worst dinner host ever to a whole new level. If you've ever had a friend's mom force you to eat something gross while saying, "I spent all day cooking this," Margaret is that times a million. Except what she's serving contains actual human body parts. And trust me, you can't just politely decline and ask for pizza instead. What makes Margaret truly terrifying isn't just that she's infected with the mold, it's how the infection has warped her. See, each member of the Baker family got changed in different ways. Jack became basically unkillable. Lucas got even smarter and more sadistic, but Margaret, she turned into a walking bug hive. And not cute bugs like ladybugs. I'm talking massive mutated flies, spiders, and wasps that she can control and summon whenever she wants. I know some of you are already typing, "I just use bug spray." You realize we're talking about thousands of bugs, right? You'd need an industrial tanker of Raid, and even then her insects are mutated by the mold. Regular insecticides wouldn't even make them sneeze. The only effective weapon is fire, which means you'd need a flamethrower. And let's be honest, when was the last time you carried a flamethrower to dinner? What's worse is that you have to face her on her turf. The old house is basically her kingdom. It's dark, rotting, and full of tight spaces where she can set traps. She knows every creaky floorboard and hiding spot. You'd be stumbling around in the dark while she's watching your every move, using her bugs as little spies. She's got the ultimate home field advantage, and that's before we even get to the greenhouse, which is basically bug breeding central. But the real horror show starts when you push her too far. Margaret undergoes one of the most disgusting mutations in gaming history. Her body elongates into this spider-like monstrosity with a massive insect hide bulging from her pelvic area, constantly spewing out more bugs. She can climb on walls and ceilings, move incredibly fast, and just when you think you've found a safe spot to hide, surprise, she's right above you, ready to drop down. The worst part is that she still talks and thinks like a person. She's not some mindless monster. She's a twisted version of a mother figure who genuinely believes she's doing what's best for her family. She wants to feed you, care for you, and make you part of the Bakers. It's that corrupted paternal instinct that makes her so much more disturbing than just a random monster. You know what's really giving me nightmares though? Imagine walking into the kitchen at night for a snack, turning on the light and seeing Margaret hanging from your ceiling smiling down at you saying, "I made you dinner, sugar." I'd probably just accept death at that point. Therapy couldn't fix what that would do to me. But if bugs under your skin make your skin crawl, just wait and see what happens when a noble knight transforms into something that makes Margaret look positively cuddly by comparison. Let's talk about Lwig from Bloodborne, because nothing says sweet dreams quite like a half-horse, half-man abomination that used to be a hero. When you first meet him in the Hunter's Nightmare, you're basically walking into the world's worst petting zoo. This guy was once the first hunter of the Healing Church, a knight in shining armor who fought to protect people. Now he's, well, just look at him. What makes Lwig absolutely terrifying is how aggressive he is right out of the gate. Most bosses give you a second to breathe, maybe figure out what you're dealing with. Not Lwig. This dude comes at you like you owe him money and insulted his mother. He's massive, faster than something that size has any right to be, and hits harder than your dad when you accidentally broke his favorite golf club. I went there. But I'm good at video games, I can hear some of you saying. That's cute. Lwig doesn't care about your Fortnite wins or your Dark Souls Platinum trophy. His attacks come from every single angle. Ceiling drops, charges, swipes, kicks, and they're deliberately designed to catch you when you think you've found a pattern. Just when you think, okay, I've got this figured out, he'll mix it up and flatten you like a pancake. And unlike pancakes, you won't be delicious afterwards, just dead. But here's where the real nightmare starts. Just when you've used up all your healing items and are barely hanging on by a thread, Lwig finds his favorite toy, the Holy Moonlight Sword. Suddenly, the music changes. He stands upright. He remembers who he was, and somehow that makes him even deadlier. It's like showing up to fight Mike Tyson, surviving 5 rounds somehow, and then he suddenly pulls out a lightsaber and starts quoting Shakespeare while kicking your ass. It's not just a physical threat anymore, it's almost existential. The second phase is beautiful and horrible at the same time. His sword glows with cosmic energy, sending out these massive waves of arcane power that can one-shot you at even near to full health. He's more focused, more deliberate, and in some ways, more human, which somehow makes it worse. You're not just fighting a beast anymore, you're fighting a fallen hero who knows exactly what he's doing. What really gets me about Lwig isn't just how how hard he hits or how gross he looks. It's his story. This was a guy who wanted to protect people. He believed in honor and courage, and bit by bit, the blood in the hunt corrupted him until he became the very thing he swore to destroy. When you beat him, you can actually talk to his severed head. He asks if the hunters he trained remained honorable knights. You have to choose whether to lie to him or break his heart with the truth. Of course, I don't give a fuck. I broke that dude's heart. I died 100 times this guy. Horsey man, I don't give a shit about your knights. And this happens. You ever had to tell a dying monster that everyone he ever learned turned into monsters too? Talk about awkward conversations. It makes all those "we need to talk" texts from your ex seem pretty tame in comparison. Trust me, I would know about those. Next up, we've got a villain who doesn't just want to kill you. He wants to throw a moon at your head and everyone you've ever known, because being subtle is for losers. Now, most of these monsters we've talked about would at least give you the dignity of killing you up close and personal. But Skull Kid, or more specifically, Majora's Mask in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, says, nah, I'm gonna drop an entire moon on you. Not a little meteor, not a satellite, the moon with a face, an angry face. Why does the moon have a face? And before any of you guys make a comment about how this isn't a horror movie, this scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. It is also very terrifying when you think about it. It's a horror movie in my mind. I make the video. Deal with it. Relax. It's called dark humor, buddy. What makes Majora's Mask so absolutely terrifying isn't that it's just powerful. It's that it completely breaks the rules of reality itself. Remember when you were a kid and you played pretend and that one annoying friend would say, "Oh yeah, I have a shield that blocks everything." And then you'd say, "Well, I have a sword that cuts through any shield." And it would go back and forth until someone's mom called you in for dinner and you beat the shit out of each other with sticks. Just me? Okay, well, Majora's Mask is that annoying kid, except it actually works. This thing can turn you into a completely different species. It can freeze an entire mountain in eternal winter. It can poison all the water in a region. It can raise the dead, and just for funsies, it can pull the moon out of orbit and make it crash into the planet, killing literally everyone. I've had bad days before, but never I'm gonna destroy the entire world bad. That's a whole other level of waking up on the wrong side of the bed. But wait, I hear some of you typing with your Cheeto-stained fingers. Can't you just hide somewhere, like a really deep cave? First off, rude. Second, we're talking about the moon crashing into the planet. There's no bunker deep enough, no cave safe enough. Let me paint this out for you. This is the moon. This is you. Boom! That's it. Game over for everyone. And you've got only 3 days before impact. That's 72 hours to somehow stop a godlike entity from causing an extinction level event. Good luck with that. The most disturbing part is that the whole apocalypse is being orchestrated by what looks like a kid in a mask. Skull Kid himself isn't inherently evil. He's just a lonely, mischievous forest imp who felt abandoned by his friends. Reminds me of my childhood. But the mask took all of those negative emotions, the loneliness, the abandonment, the resentment, and amplified them into world-ending rage. It's like giving a nuclear launch code to a kid having a temper tantrum, except a million times worse. And that's where the true horror lies. Majora's Mask doesn't just destroy bodies, it corrupts minds and souls. Everyone it touches gets twisted. Mask found the perfect vessel in Skull Kid, someone vulnerable, hurt, and powerful enough to cause real damage. It's basically the cosmic horror version of targeting someone's insecurities in an argument. Oh, your friends abandoned you? Why not abandon the whole world by dropping the moon on it? Harsh. The only way Link manages to stop this thing is by using time travel, collecting magical masks from all over Termina, summoning 4 giants to physically hold back the moon, and then going inside the moon to battle Majora directly. God damn it, what type of acid are they taking in Japan? And even then, he needs to literally become a god using the fierce deity mask. Let me repeat that. The hero needs to become a god to win this fight. So unless you happen to have an ocarina that can manipulate time, ability to transform into multiple species, connections with ancient deities, and your own god mask lying around, you're toast. And not the good kind of toast with butter and cinnamon sugar. I'm talking about the type of toast that you make in your bathtub. If cosmic horror isn't your style, our next nightmare comes in a more personal package. A deranged dragon king cradling his invisible baby while trying to tear your limbs off. Let's talk about Aceros, the consumed king from Dark Souls 3. Because nothing says family issues quite like a half-dragon dad who won't stop screaming about his invisible baby. When you first walk into his garden, you hear this creepy voice echoing through the area. He's having a full conversation with someone who isn't there. Fun times already. Aceros used to be a normal king. Well, normal for Dark Souls, which means he was probably already a little off his rocker. But then he got obsessed with dragons and decided, you know what would be cool if I became one. Spoiler alert, transformation did not go well. Now he looks like Pete Davidson. Basically, he's this skinny, pale, scaly mess clutching what he thinks is a baby, but might just be thin air. You might be thinking, he sounds pathetic. I could take him. First of all, put your confidence away. Nobody wants to see that. Second, this dude is legitimately terrifying because he's completely unpredictable. He starts off almost fragile looking, using magic and moving slowly. You might fool yourself into thinking this fight will be easy, and that's exactly what he wants. But halfway through the fight, he has what can only be described as the worst temper tantrum in video game history. He suddenly decides that holding his invisible baby was cramping his style, so he just puts the baby down with extreme prejudice because I don't want to get canceled and I don't want YouTube not to give me money on this video. You get the idea. Fun fact, there's an actual squishing sound and a baby's cry in the source code of Dark Souls 3, but the developers took it out when they released the game because they thought it was too dark. Probably was, but Dark Souls doesn't mess around with the disturbing factor. After that, Oceros goes full beast mode. He drops down on all fours and starts charging around the arena like a rabid rhinoceros that just drank 10 energy drinks. His movement becomes completely erratic. No pattern, no warning, just pure chaos. And he's fast, like crackhead energy fast. What makes him extra special in the nightmare department is that he keeps talking throughout the whole fight. He's not just trying to kill you, he's having a full psychological breakdown while doing it. It's like fighting someone's mentally ill grandfather who also happens to be part dragon and can shoot ice breath at you. His frost breath is no joke either. Get caught in that and you're not just taking damage, your stamina regeneration goes down the toilet too. In a game where stamina means survival, that's basically a death sentence. The boss room itself doesn't help either. It's filled with roots and debris, making it hard to move around. There's water on the floor that in real life would slow you down, and when a 7-foot tall dragon man is charging at you screaming about his missing child that he just killed, every little obstacle becomes a potential coffin nail. I've heard people say, but if I had a gun, I could just shoot him. Oh, you sweet summer child. This is a being who deliberately mutated himself through forbidden magic and dragon worship. Your little 9mm isn't going to do anything except maybe just make him more angry. And trust me, you do not want to make him more angry than he already is. But if you thought Oceros was gross, wait until you meet our next abomination that literally turned itself inside out because it was just too hungry. Now, let's move on to the Gaping Dragon from Dark Souls, aka the poster child for don't eat too much or you'll turn into a literal mouth. First off, I know what this thing looks like. Get it out of the way, make your jokes now. But yeah, remember that first time you see it in the game? That little dragon head pops up and you think, oh, that's not so bad. Then the rest of it rises and you realize that's not its head. Its entire body has split open into a massive mouth lined with teeth. I still have nightmares about that reveal. This thing is huge. We're talking the size of a city bus, maybe bigger. It's like someone took a dragon, decided it wasn't scary enough, and then turned its whole torso into a walking mouth. The developers said they designed it around the concept of greed. It was so hungry, so consumed by the desire to eat, that its body physically transformed to accommodate its appetite. Talk about what happens when you skip breakfast and lunch. Well, I could just stay away from its mouth. I hear some of you keyboard warriors typing. Good luck with that when the entire creature is a mouth. It's like saying you'll avoid getting wet in the ocean by staying away from the water part. The thing has legs the size of tree trunks, a tail that can sweep you across the room, and oh yeah, it can charge. The Gaping Dragon has this move where it lowers its body and just bulldozes across the entire arena. You think you're at a safe distance? Nope. You think you can hide behind a pillar? The pillar breaks. You think you can block it? Congratulations, you just became a pancake with a shield pattern imprinted on it. What makes this monster extra special in the ways to die horribly department is that it has this grab attack where it scoops you up and stuffs you right into its chest maw. Imagine being eaten alive, feeling all those teeth closing in around you. Actually, don't imagine that. I'm sorry I even brought it up. I'm having trouble sleeping as it is. Just when you think you've figured out its pattern, surprise, just like Becky after 2 vodka crayons, it vomits acid all over the floor. This isn't just regular damage we're talking about. This acid literally melts your equipment. Your fancy armor, dissolved. Your precious weapon, corroded. Your dignity, long gone. All while this massive tooth wagon is charging at you again. The worst part is, this thing used to be a normal dragon. Well, normal for being an immortal magical reptile. It's a descendant of the ancient dragons that ruled the world before fire existed. But then life happened, desire happened, hunger happened, and it transformed into this. It's basically what would happen if your food addiction physically manifested and turned you inside out. Some of you might be thinking, well, I would just use lightning on it. Dragons are weak to lightning. First, congratulations on knowing your Dark Souls lore. Gold star for you. Second, unless you can naturally produce lightning from your fingertips, you're still toast. The average person doesn't exactly carry Zeus-level weaponry in their back pocket. And even for lightning, this fight is brutal for first-time players with magical weapons and superhuman rolling abilities. I died to this thing 17 times my first playthrough. 17! I wasn't even mad by then. I was just impressed at how consistently it kept finding new ways to kill me. But as nightmare-inducing as the Gaping Dragon is, at least it stays in its own game. Our next horror breaks through your screen to turn your real-life webcam against you. Let's talk about the Eyes Never Wake entity, a monster that takes "I'm watching you" to a whole new level of nope. This upcoming horror game does something most games wouldn't dare. It uses your actual webcam to see if you're hiding in real life. Yeah, you heard that right. The monster in the game can literally see you through your webcam. Sleep tight. The game's premise is simple but genius. You're exploring some weird, glitchy, out of bounds area in an abandoned video game. But there's this entity hunting you, and its whole thing is that it wants to see your face. When it gets close in the game, you have to physically duck under your desk or move away from your webcam in real life to avoid being caught. I don't know about you, but the idea of having to hide under my desk at 2 a.m. while playing a game is, let's just say my therapist would have questions, but I'll just cover my webcam then. Nice try, Einstein. First off, that's cheating. Second off, the developers thought of that. If you cover your webcam or turn it off, your character in the game can't move. It's like saying I'll avoid drowning by not getting in the water while you're already in the middle of the ocean. The game forces you to engage with its core mechanic, your real life vulnerability. It doesn't stop there either. This thing can also hear you through your microphone. Make too much noise in your room, a cough, a sneeze, your mom yelling at you because you didn't do your laundry yet. Come on, man. And the entity knows where you are. So not only do you have to physically hide, but you also have to stay completely silent. Imagine trying not to make noise while you're already freaking out about a digital monster that can see you. What makes this truly terrifying is how it messes with the safe boundary between games and reality. Horror games are supposed to stay in the screen where they belong. That's the unspoken agreement. I'll let you scare me, but only through the glass. This game says, nah, I'm coming into your living room. It's like if the girl from The Ring didn't just crawl out of the TV, but also commented on how messy your room is. The psychological impact here is huge. Even though logically you know it's just a game using your camera input, something primal in your brain freaks out when you realize you're being watched. Our brains aren't wired to understand the difference between a game that can see me and an actual threat that can see me. Your caveman brain just screams, "Predator, hide!" And that fear is real, even if the monster isn't. And let's be honest, how many of you check behind your shower curtain because of horror movies, or under your bed, or in your closet? Now imagine a game that actively encourages that paranoia by making the monster respond to your actual physical presence. It's leveraging your real-world vulnerability in a way no other game can. The developer claims all webcam processing is done locally. Nothing gets uploaded, and you can turn the feature off in settings. But come on. We all know turning it off is admitting defeat, and even if you do disable it, you'll still feel like something's watching you. That's the real genius of this concept. It plants the seeds of paranoia that continues even after you close the game. By the way, I've had my webcam covered with tape since I started researching this game. Not because I'm scared or anything, I'm just, it's just a precaution. Totally normal behavior. After all of this technology-based horror, our final nightmare proves that sometimes the scariest things are the simplest. A shadowy figure that kills you for just looking at it. Finally, let's talk about Robe from Repo, which proves that the scariest monsters don't need fancy powers or gross mutations. They just need you to break one simple rule. Look at it and you die. Robe is basically this tall, shadowy figure wearing what looks like a long cloak and a white mask. Think No Face from Spirited Away, but instead of offering you gold, it offers you a quick trip to the game over screen. What makes Robe absolutely terrifying is how quiet it is. Most horror game monsters give you some kind of warning. Heavy footsteps, creepy music, maybe some growling. Not Robe. This thing moves like it's wearing noise-canceling socks. Players constantly report Robe just appearing behind them with zero warning. 1 second you're looting a cabinet, the next second you're dead and wondering what hit you. It's like that friend who reads messages over your shoulder without announcing they're there, except this friend will actually kill you. But I have good headphones. I'd hear it coming. Sure, Janice, Robe was specifically designed to counter that exact confidence. It moves with almost no sound cues. Even high-end gaming headsets won't save you when there's literally nothing to hear. Fancy RGB setup can't detect what isn't making noise. Here's where it gets truly diabolical. The way Robe attacks is tied to how you react to it. If you look directly at its mask, it immediately charges at you with incredible speed. Your natural instinct when you see a threat is to look at it, right? Well, Robe weaponizes that instinct. The very thing your brain tells you to do, focus on the danger, is exactly what gets you killed. It's basically psychological warfare. And don't think crouching will save you either. If Robe catches you standing up, it deals 100 damage, which is basically instant death. If you're crouching, it hits you for 50 damage. That's like saying, would you prefer to be hit by a truck or just a regular car? Either way, you're not walking away happy. Hiding under furniture isn't safe either. If Robe sees you duck under something, it just reaches underneath with its arms and grabs you anyways. Imagine being under your bed as a kid, thinking you're safe from the monsters, and then feeling something grab your ankle. That's the Robe experience in a nutshell. The worst part is the constant psychological pressure. You never relax because you know this silent killer could be right behind you at any moment. You're constantly spinning your camera around, checking corners, looking up at ceiling, but not directly at Robe if it's there. It creates this perfect storm of paranoia. Every shadow becomes suspicious. Every quiet moment feels like the calm before the storm. Some players have suggested fighting Robe head on. That's cute. Robe has 250 health points, and as I mentioned, deals massive damage instantly. Unless you have godlike reflexes and perfect aim and a bunch of tools, you're not winning that fight. The game literally tells you to avoid it, not fight it. When the tutorial says run and hide, maybe it's time to listen. While other monsters on this list might be more powerful or grosser, Robe terrifies me because it feels like the most plausible. We've all had that feeling of being watched, of turning around quickly because we sense something behind us. Robe is that feeling given form. The shadow you thought you saw, the presence you felt but couldn't explain, and in the game, that feeling is actually trying to kill you. So there you have it, 8 horror game monsters that would give you absolutely zero chance of survival. From spider trains to caustic masks to webcam watching entities, the creative ways games have found to terrify us just keep evolving. If you enjoyed having your sleep schedule permanently damaged, hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to keep destroying your sleep schedule, I suggest you watch this video on screen now.